Hello, my name's Sarah, otherwise known as Yarnmugs on Instagram and Ravelry. Welcome to my 27th podcast where I chat about my knitting, crochet and sewing, and often the book or books that I've recently read. I hope you're all well. It's becoming autumnal, the trees are changing colour, and today is the 30th of September 2022. I'm really considering doing Vlogtober, which I've never done before, mainly because I tend to film these podcasts on my family iPad. But for doing a daily vlog type video, I need to do it on my phone, and I've just been trying to practice and see if I can do that all myself, you know, little videos plus creating a little movie through an app and then uploading it to YouTube on my phone. So yeah, fingers crossed. Let me see if I can. Leave me a comment if you think I should, if you'd be interested in that. I do work full time, so I don't really know what I'm going to be vlogging about, but I did have a little go at Christmas last year and I put them on my Instagram stories and that seemed to go down quite well. So yeah, I'm going to give that a go. So let's crack on and chat about things I've been making. First of all, we'll talk about what I'm wearing. This is one of the first times I've had a cardigan on. This is my Sunday Funday cardi. I've shown this loads in the past when I've made it, but what I wanted to show you was the dress that I made recently. Now this is the Nina Lee spring dress. This one, I've made it once before. I made it for my 50th birthday. It was a white with black spot viscose fabric. It was lovely, and I've been meaning to make another one, mainly because the V part on me on the previous dress was far too low, so I knew that I wanted to make another one, and I have, and I made this at a recent sewing retreat. So the studio where I learned to sew, every now and again they do a sewing retreat, which is like a day of bring your sewing machine and what you're making, and then they provide pastries and never-ending cups of tea or coffee and lunch and afternoon cake and tea, and it's just a really lovely environment to be with other sewers. And yeah, and that's where I made this. So it's a navy floral viscose fabric, and how I did it different this time was I definitely made the V half the size, because normally, so there's the V, it's normally there, and I feel very self-conscious. I do always wear it tied up, but I think this just looks more like a keyhole, which I really am happy with. And on that picture they show it undone, and I suppose you could wear it undone, and again that to me feels comfy. But I do like a pretty bow. The other change to the pattern I made was I didn't put bust darts in this time. It's just the bodice comes as two halves and then you create this gap. But I think it feels all right without a bust dart. And I mainly did that because I feel like I've put weight on recently, so I just didn't want anything to make it feel tighter. I've done the sleeve pattern. I mean, on here it's got a ruffle, but I just did the shorter sleeve, so it's that but without the ruffle. On my previous one I put a different sleeve in from another pattern, which was more of a shorter one. I'll stand up and show you. And the other thing different I did was I've just done a one-tiered skirt, and it's actually the Hinterland skirt pattern. I've put pockets in as well, which this pattern doesn't come with, but who doesn't love pockets in a dress? Stand back. So yeah, it feels lovely. It's really floaty, and I'm really pleased with the fit. Even though there's no bust darts, I feel like, yeah, it fits nice and still gives me a nice shape. And I've said before, my waist is here, but I always make my waist, it is as the pattern suggests, but I think it's much more flattering for me because it gives me that look of having my waist, you know, coming in. Whereas when I make bodices that are down here, it's really looks strange. Like and again, I don't know if I have got a long body, but yeah, I'm so happy with this. And I wasn't expecting it to go with a cardigan, but it matches that green cardigan. Lovely. Excuse the burn. Look at that. Anyone else burn themselves when they get things out the oven? Anyway. So yeah, really, really pleased. It was a lovely day of sewing with my sister and friends. And I made a whole dress on the day. The other sewing I wanted to show you was I made a dress for my friend. And again, I've only ever made one dress for someone else, and it was very stressful, but this time it was not stressful at all. She chose the fabric. We went to a shop and we both bought fabric, and I've made this. And it's a beautiful sort of teal green, and they look a bit like feathers or petals. And this is similar to a dress I've made for myself. So it's the Lotta top, so it's got grown on sleeves, there's no set-in sleeves, and it's just a plain bodice with no darts, and then a gathered skirt with pockets. So this is my go-to style really, and I put I've got a little label. I'm not sure if that's going to be back to front or not. So yeah, I've got to give this to her when I next see her in a couple of weeks. But I was really pleased, but I'm super hoping I hope it does fit. I've had her measurements, but again, you can never tell, can you? Just again with this bodice length and the length of the skirt. But yeah, I'm really pleased. It was a lovely make. Oh, and this came with, I had to make my own bias binding out of the fabric, and again, I'm really pleased. It's very neat. I love making bias binding, but I do want to get one of those, oh sorry, I've got something in my eyelash, something hanging in my eye, sorry. I want to get one of those little tools where you pull the material through and then you can iron it straight away, so it's like doubled bias binding. So I must get one of those, but in the meantime I just iron it myself. And this is the same, that's bias binding, but again I'm really, really pleased with the finish. So two really nice sewing projects that I'm really, really happy with. Just have a drink. The next thing is socks. I showed you one of these last week last time, and now I've finished them both. And it's the blue tipped socks. Now, this is the one I showed you last time with a very long cuff. And this is the one that I finished. And annoyingly, they match, but one is shorter in the cuff than the other. And I'd weighed the yarn. I thought it was exactly the same, but isn't that a bit annoying? So I don't mind it for myself, you know, but I would never gift that because it's so obviously, you know, different. But anyway, nice to have them finished, nice to have used the yarn up, and I will still wear these. I've not worn any thick socks lately, or hand knitted socks, but it is just starting to get a bit cooler. I think it was 9 degrees this morning when I left to take my daughter to school, so it's definitely getting cooler. The other thing, knitted sock I've been working on, I showed you this last time as well. I started this in January and had left it when I fancied making the second one, and I've just made a start. So this is the Mount Airy sock. It's got a really lovely texture. It's a pattern repeat, which is really easy to follow, doing them toe up. And this beautiful yarn is Superba vintage. It's lovely. I really love those colours, and I'm sure I showed this last time, but when you see it without the pattern, it's really lovely. And going back to the blue tit socks, that's West Yorkshire Spinner. They've got a range of bird colours. Isn't this bag lovely as well? This is from Annie. I think it's Annie OB, but all hand sort of embroidered, and yeah, it's one of my favourite little sock bags. So yeah, 2 socks, one complete, one on the way. Crochet now. Another lovely day out or afternoon I had with my sister, locally Helen from Woolly Chic, she often has afternoon tea and crochet afternoons, where you take your crochet and also have an afternoon tea. So we did that, and I'd planned and I'd started a crochet top. Sorry, look at this beautiful bag as well. This is from Emma from Eldon Woodcraft. That feels quite autumnal to me, isn't it lovely? Such lovely fabric and a beautifully made bag. Yeah, so I decided I was going to make a top, again using leftover yarns, or yarns that didn't know what I was going to use for. And I had lots of these little Ricorumi DK 50-gram balls of cotton. So I had them in various colours, and the plan was I was going to make the top is called the Amma top, and that's Icelandic for granny. It's a free pattern. I'll link it down below in the description box. Like everything else is linked below, patterns and yarn that I use. And essentially you make 2 granny squares, and then you join them at the shoulders and add a bit of an edge to the shoulder, the sleeves and the bottom. But as I was making this, I just kept thinking, I'm not going to wear this, mainly because of the colours. So what I decided to do is just carry on and make a granny square blanket, probably for a baby. Oh, I won't show you all the ends. Oh, and it's lovely. All in lovely pastels. So it's cotton, all DK, and like I say, in various colours, with a bit of this natural. This was the recycled denim that I've used for my ranunculus, but in the undyed one. So at the minute, that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing a very simple treble edge, and then it's done. But you can see, I just don't think I would ever have worn a top like this. It's not my colours, and but I do want to make the top because it looks lovely, but I think I'll do it in some indie dyed yarn. I've got such beautiful yarns and I need to make them into a top. But for now, this is happily going to be a baby blanket, and I think I've got it at decent size. So I'll either keep hold of that, because I'm often making baby blankets, or it will go to charity and someone else can enjoy it. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased with those pretty colours. So yeah, I'll have that finished later today. But that's been a nice make. But yeah, I do check out that Amma top, because it does, it looks like a really simple make. And I think essentially you can make it with any thickness of yarn. You just need to grow your granny square to the appropriate width of you. So that's that. Now, after my last podcast, someone mentioned, could I show my Charlotte's Universe blanket? Now, I have not worked on this all year. Last time I worked on it was in December, and that is mainly because I'm making it by watching YouTube videos. I think she's called It's All in a Nutshell, and it's just a really lovely way to make something, where you're watching someone else making it. So I would highly recommend those videos. I've mentioned them before. She's done videos for left-handers and right-handers. And soon, I think in November, I've got a couple of weeks off. So in the daytime, I will have, because I can't do it at night time, but in the day, I will be able to get a few more rows done. But I just thought I'd show it, just again, someone requested it, and it is beautiful, and it might, again, inspire me to make it again, or get on with making it. So this is a beautiful, if anyone has heard of Charlotte's Universe, it's the designer is the person that did Sophie's Universe, and it's, and it's such a clever pattern with lots of beautiful stitches and textures. Look at them bobbles. And it's a pattern where, please do not be put off. It looks like it's tricky and technical, but I've done most of these rounds. I've never done these stitches before. It doesn't mean that you can't do them. And like you say, the videos are so good, so clever. It really makes you love love crochet even more. Get these sort of front and back post kind of stitches and the bobbles. I mean, it's just beautiful. So yeah, I need to, there are some rows, look, these are just plain, just some treble rows, but I know the next row is going to be a bit more of a, I think you're creating tulips or a flower. So I need to be able to sit down, watch a video and crochet along. But I just thought I'd show it to you again. This is using yarn from Hobbycraft. It's the Women's Institute, just in a handful of colours, but I wanted it in sort of blues and greys to kind of go with my house. And this is where you start off that centre, and it's all puffy and it's lovely. So yeah, I just thought I'd show it again after someone requested to see it because it's such a beautiful blanket. Yeah, and she is Dedri, I can't remember how you pronounce her last name, and I can't think of her Instagram page, but I will link it down below, plus the videos because they are so good. Lovely. But yeah, it just needs to get a bit bigger. I'm not too far, I'm only a few parts off. I do, you know, well, some people know I do keep a log of everything I'm making. I'm just trying to, oh, here it is, I've come to the right page. So yeah, Charlotte's Universe, it comes in parts, so each part has several rounds, and I've completed 9 parts, and there's 14 parts altogether. So yeah, I think I'm on round 89 I've completed, and there's 127 rounds altogether. That's another thing actually someone was asking me about. Anita was saying I often refer to my little book, and she just wondered how I use it. So I say I'm on Ravelry, but I don't ever use Ravelry as in to log my makes. I did used to when I first joined, but I just don't have the time to go onto another platform and log stuff. So this is my little book, and I use it like a book, as in I start off with my contents page. This was 2021, and then the first thing I made, so you just log each thing you're starting on in order with a number. So say here my Sunday Funday cardi, that was made in 2021 in the green, that is number 7. So I go and find number 7, and then I just log what yarn I've used, what size hook, and then ticking off my rows. And I'll often put notes if I've done something a bit different. So yeah, so for me it's to be able to go back and see and tell you that was made out of Cascade 220 Heathers in the Shire colourway, and anyone that's watched me knows what a nightmare it was to try and get hold of that yarn, or the yarn I needed to finish that garment. But yeah, it's a quick and easy way to flick back and see, looking at the index, seeing what number page it's on, who was the designer, and then yeah, just marking off my rows. Yeah, and actually it's nice to look back when I'm looking now. So for 2022 I've already made yeah, I'm on to my 31st make for this year already. So there are some things here that aren't finished yet, including Charlotte's Universe from last year, but it's just a nice way of keeping track. And I include my sewing on there now. I never used to, but I do now, because I can also write down little notes, like for this one, at what size seam allowance I've used, or didn't add darts, or things like that. So that next time I can have a look and think, did I like this dress, or did I want it a little bit different? One of the things I have noticed about a lot of my dresses, and I probably do need to rectify this, is often the shoulders are a little bit longer. So when I put the sleeve in, it's tiny, it's marginal, but it almost feels like it should be there. So I probably need to take out maybe 1 centimetre on the bodice on the shoulder. But like I say, who else is going to know that? It's just me. But yeah, that's what I do. I keep a log and keep my notes and my ticking off my rows, so that I can just pick up any old project and know exactly where I am. And actually I've only got about 3 pages left. So I've got a handful of books here. I always have little notebooks to hand. Look at these. Knitter, crocheter, just in lovely. I love little brown books. And these are ones with dots actually. Yeah, I think that's more for bullet journaling, but I don't do that. and another little one. So that's all I need, just a tiny little book that I can just, especially if I'm going out, and I don't do this very often, but like when I did the crochet afternoon tea, I can just grab this book and just bung it in the bag of the project that I'm working on. Yeah, so that's what I do with my books. I don't use Ravelry, so yeah, don't ever look up my things on there, because I just don't record things on there anymore. I also have a log of when I buy fabrics as well, so I can look back and just see, or how much was that, or how much did I have, and what shop was it from, because that's sometimes nice as well. This fabric, again, I looked earlier to see, and again, I bought this from where I learnt to sew, but she's no longer selling fabric. And I think I bought 2.5 meters for £24. And it was just navy viscose floral. Okay, so that's the sewing, the socks. Oh, I've got one more little bit of crochet to show you. And I think I might have shown you this last time, where I've started making a crochet blanket for a friend. Again, I haven't worked on this much, but I have done a bit more. This is the Cosy Stripe blanket by Attic24. I'm just about to add the next 2 rows, and that will take me up to 60. I think I've done 60 rows, and ideally I want to get to 100. Isn't it lovely? And this colour the colours really go with her new bedding. So that is really what I need to focus on in October. I want to get this finished so that she has it for now that it's getting a bit colder. And so the 5 colours, there's not much left, so I'm hoping I'll get 2 more rows for each colour, which will take me up to 70 rows in total, and then I've already got the next 5 balls all ready to carry on. But this is Stylecraft Special DK, and I think it will be the size of her. She's got like a double bed, and it is quite long. But yeah, I'm happy with that, but I just haven't worked much on it, and I really need to. Okay, so yeah, that's all the knitting, sewing, crochet. So next to show you is some yarn, and I'll show you this each time this year because I subscribed to the Enchanted Yarn Club by Beehive Yarns, and she creates yarn based on a lovely image. That is just perfect, isn't it? Look at those colours. So this is in her DK weight, and that was a plan this year. You know, I'm just going to subscribe to a club for a year and just get a lot of DK weight, which I didn't really have much of. But that is beautiful. That's right up my street. I really love greens and blues. So that was the July, I think. And this is the August. So that's the image, and that's the yarn. Isn't that pretty? So just cream and lots of lovely speckles. I've got no idea what I'm going to be doing with these yarns, but I really just wanted that collection. I've also treated myself to her advent calendar, so I'm going to stop. I'll get the October and the November one, and then I'll stop and just enjoy her advent calendar. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased with that. So a couple more yarns to go in my collection, and then I'll chat to you about the books I've been reading. So I've managed to read 3 books since last time. Does anyone else get hair in their books? I read when I'm drying my hair upside down in the morning, so there's always hair in it. So this is the first one, Time Travelling with a Hamster by Ross Welford. Now, I came across this book because my daughter was having a clear out, and I looked at it and read the back and thought, oh, I want to read that. She read it probably in year 7 and said there was some sad bits in it, and it put her off reading any of his others, and me and my husband had bought her a little collection of this author. So I read it. So it is aimed at teenagers, but it's lovely. It was a really lovely read. It really is about family, friendships, life, but written from the point of view of the teenager, the child, and it's really touching. So I'd really recommend it, even though it's aimed at children. It was a lovely book and really lovely style of writing. So yeah, and there are some sad bits in there, but I was really, really pleased. It was lovely, so I'd recommend that. And then I don't know if any of you, well, I'm sure you do. Do any of you watch that? I think it's called Gone Fishing with Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse. I was watching that. We love that programme, and they were fishing on a beach, which was a really stony beach, and my husband was saying it was Chesil Beach, and by coincidence, and this happens quite a lot with me and books, I was in a charity shop and I came across this book on Chesil Beach by Ian McEwan. I've read one of his books before, and that was Enduring Love. That was amazing, that book. I really enjoyed that. So I picked this up just by because the coincidence of just seeing it on the TV, and so yeah, I don't know if anyone else has read this book, but it's very small. I read it in a few days, and it's a bit uncomfortable reading, and it's based on a couple and on their wedding night. It is about their wedding night. They got married in the 60s, and it's a real insight into what life was like then. And I don't really want to give too much away, and it is quite personal, so it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, I really enjoyed it, and it just hit home, the awkwardness of, I don't know how to say it, maybe I'm just going to say it. I don't know whether to say it or not. I think I've never read anything like this, which talks about the difficulties of having sex for the first time. I think that's probably what it is, really, in a time where people didn't really talk about it, or you might not have seen it on TV, or you might not have even read much about it. So yeah, it just really hit home how things are so different now to then, and how that wedding night might have been the first time that this couple would have had sex. So yeah, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it's quite graphic, but in such a personal way, and how it impacts each of the people in that situation. So yeah, I would recommend it, but be warned, it might not be. Yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it was interesting for me. So I don't know if I've said too much, but I really enjoyed it. And then after that, I decided to read a second one of Ross Welford's books, What Not to Do If You Turn Invisible. And again, it's very similar, as in it's a similar style of writing aimed at teenagers. But again, it was another nice story about family and friendship, and but it was just not as good as the first one. So I've got another book of his to read, and I'm going to leave it for a little while because it is a nice, easy read. But it wasn't as good as the time travelling one. So 3 books, all good, all I'd recommend. I am on Goodreads, and I do leave little reviews of the books I've read, and sometimes I start to read other people's reviews, but I then stop myself because it's such a personal thing, isn't it? So don't be put off, or don't be discouraged if by what I'm saying. Sometimes you just have to give things a go, don't you, and see what you think, what your opinions are. And I think the last thing I wanted to chat about was the reason or benefits of crafting and hobbies, and why we do the things that we do. And I've been thinking about this because I recently have done some training at work, and it was about the brain and how the brain develops. And I suppose for me in my job, it's about babies' brains and children's brains, but also how doing things that make you happy can have an impact on your brain as well. And the teacher was talking about when you're doing something that you love and you're really in the swing of it, she called it the flow, and it really hit home. Sometimes when you might be reading a book, or you might be crocheting or knitting or sewing, where you're really in the zone and nothing else really matters, and you can really just enjoy the moment and concentrate. That really hit home to me, and I was thinking, if I didn't have these things that make me happy, I think I'd be quite lonely or like sort of miserable, because I have a massive sense of achievement with making things or reading things, and I can only compare that to other people I know that don't do these things. I just don't want to live my life, all I do is go to work, come home, eat dinner and go to bed again. I feel like I need little goals and little achievements, and making things really does that. So whether it is keeping a log so I can see physically that, I've made that, or I've done these many rows, or reading books and knowing that I really try and read a book in a month, and I'm not trying to read fast, it's just little goals that I set myself. Has a massive impact on how I feel. And when I came away from the sewing retreat, I was in the car and I was almost had to say it out loud. I felt really restored and a sense of achievement that I've made. I've gone somewhere with some fabric, and I've come home with a really pretty dress that I feel proud of. So I don't know how you all feel, when they sometimes talk about, or people talk about being a process or a product knitter or maker. For me, it's such it's everything. It's all of it. It's the act of doing things with my hands or using my brain, or as well as achieving things at the end of it. So I don't know if that strikes a chord with any of you as well, because we make things because we enjoy the act of making, but is it more than that even? I remember reading something ages ago. This lady, she was in her 80s or maybe even her 90s, and she used crafting like as her job, and she would make things for charity, and it was almost like she was, it gave her a sense of well-being, or a sense of this is my role, rather than just thinking all I'm going to do is sit in a chair and watch TV all day. So it's those kind of feelings that having a skill and a craft has so many benefits for myself and for others that I make for as well. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that. And like you say, I'm not churning things out to be quick and to have lots. It is as it is, I'm enjoying things, I make them and I show them, but I don't feel any pressure to have so many things done, and I just want to be happy and enjoy what I'm making. So I think that might be it. Let me just have another drink. So if anyone's interested, I might be doing Vlogtober, so I might see you more sooner than expected. Normally I do try and do a video once a month if I can, but we'll see how we go with the little daily vlogs and a little insight into my daily life. I think probably what I'll include is the weather, because everything is changing in nature. I'll often talk about what I'm wearing that day, or if I'm cooking, what I'm making, or what I'm even working on if I'm crafting. So they will just be very short, maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and see how I get on. But I hope you're all okay. Thank you so much for watching. For all those returning viewers who always leave lovely comments and chat with me, thank you so much. And if you're new and this is the first time, hope you like what you see. Take care everyone, and see you soon.